I was staring at the roasted turkey, watching steam curl up from the carved breast meat, when my cousin Jessica said the words that would destroy my family. But before I tell you how a casual Thanksgiving dinner comment led to my uncle being sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, this story has more twists than a legal thriller, and if you end up feeling even half of what I felt, a like would mean the world. These stories need to reach people who've been through something similar. Now, let me take you back to where this really started. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a hospital administrator at County General. Not exactly the career trajectory my grandmother envisioned when she set up my college fund 16 years ago, but we'll get to that. Grandma Eleanor died when I was 16. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. I remember sitting in the lawyer's office afterward, my mother's hand cold in mine, while Mr. Peterson explained the terms of the will in that careful voice lawyers use when they're trying to make complex things sound simple. Your grandmother established an educational trust fund for Sarah, he'd said, sliding papers across his mahogany desk. $387,422.19, the full proceeds from her life insurance policy. Your Uncle Mark has been designated as trustee until Sarah turns 25 or completes her education, whichever comes first. I'd barely processed the number. I was too busy trying to figure out if I was supposed to cry more than I already had. Uncle Mark, my mother's younger brother, had leaned forward in his chair, his expression solemn and trustworthy. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll take care of everything. Your grandmother wanted you to go to the best schools. That's exactly what this money will do." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was family. For 2 years, I planned my future around that fund. I researched universities, imagined myself at Columbia or NYU, pictured the person I'd become with a degree from a school that commanded respect. Uncle Mark sent quarterly statements showing the fund growing, slow and steady, just like Mr. Peterson had promised it would. Then 2008 happened. I was 18, high school diploma fresh in my hand. Acceptance letters from 3 state universities spread across my childhood desk. I called Uncle Mark to discuss which school made the most financial sense. We could afford the best one now, right? 4 years, room and board, everything covered. The silence on the other end of the line lasted 3 seconds too long. "Sarah, honey, we need to talk," he'd said, his voice heavy with something I couldn't quite identify. Regret? No. Performance. But I didn't know that then. The market crashed. The fund, it's gone. Almost everything. I have about $3,000 left. The room had tilted. "What do you mean, gone?" "The recession, bad investments. I tried to protect it, but..." His voice cracked convincingly. "I'm so sorry. I failed you. I failed your grandmother." I remember sliding down the wall in my bedroom, phone pressed to my ear, staring at those acceptance letters. $3,000 wouldn't cover a semester. It wouldn't cover books. "We'll figure something out," Uncle Mark had continued. "Community college for 2 years, then transfer. You're smart. You'll make it work. I'll send you the final statements." Those statements arrived by email 2 days later. They looked official. Letterhead, account numbers, dramatic red arrows pointing downward next to devastating percentage losses. I didn't know enough about finance then to spot what a forensic accountant would later call amateur forgeries. I enrolled at Riverside Community College. My cousin Jessica, Uncle Mark's daughter, 2 years younger than me, sent me a care package my first week. Cute notebooks, expensive pens, a Starbucks gift card. The note read, "So proud of you for making the best of a bad situation. Love, Jess." I worked part-time at Target while taking classes, studied in my car between shifts, took out small loans to cover tuition and books, transferred after 2 years to a state school, commuted from home to save money. graduated at 24 with a bachelor's in healthcare administration and $43,000 in student debt. Jessica went to Johns Hopkins. I remember the Facebook post from fall 2016. Jessica in front of a brick building, backpack slung over one shoulder, grinning at the camera. First day of med school, dream come true. So grateful for my amazing parents who made this possible. I'd liked the post, left a comment with 3 heart emojis, felt genuinely happy for her. That's the part that haunts me most. I was happy for her. The next 8 years passed in a blur of loan payments and promotional disappointments. I worked my way up from billing specialist to administrative coordinator to my current position. Nothing glamorous, nothing that required an elite education. But I was making it work, the way people like me always do. Jessica's Facebook became a highlight reel of prestigious residencies and research opportunities. Matched at Hopkins. Published in JAMA. Chief resident. I liked every post. November 2023. Thanksgiving at my parents' house. The dining room table was crowded. My parents at either end. Uncle Mark and Aunt Linda across from me. Jessica to my right. My younger brother Thomas and his wife filling in the gaps. The smell of turkey and sage stuffing should have been comforting. Instead, my stomach was already uneasy. Aunt Linda had been making pointed comments all evening about people who settle for mediocre careers when they could have pushed harder. I was pushing green beans around my plate when Jessica launched into a story about her residency. "The schedule is brutal," she said, reaching for the gravy boat. "But honestly, I keep reminding myself how lucky I am. Most of my colleagues are drowning in debt, like 200, 300,000. Some of them won't finish paying until they're 50. Aunt Linda smiled with unconcealed pride. "Well, we prioritized your education. It was worth it." It really was. Jessica squeezed her father's hand. Dad paid everything. All 4 years of med school, even my housing. Nearly $400,000. I don't know how you guys did it. The fork slipped from my hand. It clattered against the plate with a sound that seemed impossibly loud. $400,000. Nearly $400,000. The exact amount, give or take some market growth, that my grandmother's fund had been worth. "Sarah?" My mother's voice came from far away. "Are you okay?" I couldn't breathe. The room had gone fuzzy at the edges. 400,000? My voice sounded strange, distant. That's really specific." Jessica laughed, oblivious. "Right? Dad kept spreadsheets and everything. Showed me the total last year when I was worried about money. He's been so generous." Uncle Mark's face had gone very still. Our eyes met across the table. For just a second, maybe less, I saw it. The flicker of panic, the calculation. Then his expression smoothed into benign confusion. "Well, medical school is expensive," he said mildly, reaching for his wine. But Jessica earned it. She worked incredibly hard. My hands were shaking. I set them in my lap where no one could see. "I need to use the bathroom." The hallway was spinning. I locked myself in the powder room and pulled out my phone with trembling fingers. Opened the email app and scrolled back. Back. 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. There. September 2008. Uncle Mark's email with the subject line, "College Fund, Final Statement." I opened the attachment, stared at the PDF that had derailed my entire life. Lehman Brothers, market collapse, catastrophic losses, account balance, $3,247.83. I pulled up my calculator app. Jessica started med school in 2016. 8 years after my fund supposedly crashed. The dates aligned perfectly. I opened my photos and found the picture I'd taken years ago of my grandmother's original trust documents. Mr. Peterson had given me copies before I turned 18. I'd stored them in a box in my parents' garage. but I'd photographed the key pages as backup. Fund established, April 2007. Initial deposit, $397,422.99. Trustee, Mark Robert Chen. Beneficiary, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. Purpose, educational expenses for the named beneficiary only. Only. I leaned over the toilet and threw up the 3 bites of turkey I'd managed to eat. Someone knocked on the door. Sarah? Honey? My mother. Are you feeling sick? I rinsed my mouth, looked at my reflection in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes too bright. I'm fine. Something I ate. I walked back to the table on autopilot, sat down, picked up my fork. Let the conversation wash over me while I screamed internally. Jessica was still talking about residency. Uncle Mark was refilling wine glasses. Aunt Linda was critiquing the turkey's moisture level. My father was defending his cooking technique. Normal. Everything was completely normal. Except my uncle had stolen nearly $400,000 from me and given it to his daughter instead. The meal ended eventually. Jessica hugged me goodbye. We should get coffee soon. I miss hanging out with you. Definitely, I heard myself say. Text me. Uncle Mark clapped me on the shoulder. Good to see you, Sarah. You're doing great. Really great. I smiled. Said thank you. Watched him walk to his car with his arm around his wife, who had spent dinner implying I'd wasted my potential. I made it to my apartment before I started crying. That night, I pulled every document I had. Grandmother's will, trust paperwork, the email from Uncle Mark, bank statements from my community college years showing my target paychecks barely covering tuition, loan documents with their grinding interest rates. I made a timeline. Jessica's med school start date, my fund's supposed crash date, the amounts. It was circumstantial, suspicious, not proof. I needed proof. The next morning, I called 3 forensic accountants before I found one willing to talk to me for free. Her name was Maria Rodriguez. She had a calm, measured voice that made me feel slightly less insane. Educational trusts leave paper trails, she explained. If money was misappropriated, there will be documentation. Distribution forms, transfer records, bank statements. But I need to be honest with you. This investigation will cost money you might not recover. How much? Probably $3,000 for a preliminary audit. The irony wasn't lost on me. $3,000, the exact amount Uncle Mark had claimed was left in my fund. The amount that had determined the entire trajectory of my adult life. When can you start? If you're already feeling that righteous anger building, hit that like button. Because what Maria found was so much worse than I thought. Maria worked fast. Within 2 weeks, she had access to the trust account records through legal channels I didn't fully understand. Something about beneficiary rights and mandatory disclosure. I met her at a Starbucks near her office on a gray December morning. She had a leather portfolio that she opened with careful, deliberate movements. Sarah, she said quietly, I need you to prepare yourself. The fund had never crashed. According to the official bank records, the account had grown steadily from April 2007 through September 2016. Market fluctuations, yes, but overall trajectory, upward. By the time Jessica started medical school, the fund was worth $412,938.67. Then came the withdrawals. August 2016, $103,000. September 2016, $5,200. January 2017, $102,500. The pattern continued, semester by semester, for 4 years. Each withdrawal was accompanied by a distribution authorization form bearing my signature. I never signed these, I whispered, staring at the photocopies. I know. Maria pointed to the signature lines. See how consistent they are? Same pen pressure, same loop on the M in Mitchell, same tail on the final L. Human signatures have natural variation. These were traced or forged using a template. She pulled out another set of documents. I tracked where the money went. Your uncle transferred the funds to an LLC he controls, Chen Family Holdings. From there, money was wired directly to Johns Hopkins for tuition and to a property management company for Jessica's housing. The spreadsheet in front of me showed everything: dates, amounts, account numbers, a perfect paper trail of theft. How many forms did he forge? 47, over 4 years. 47 times my uncle had signed my name and stolen my future in increments. "There's more," Maria said, and her expression told me I wouldn't like it. I found emails between Mark and the trust account banker from 2015, a year before the first withdrawal. Mark was asking about distribution rules, specifically whether educational expenses for family members qualified if the primary beneficiary wasn't actively enrolled. What did the banker say? That the trust was explicitly restricted to you. The banker actually flagged this as a potential issue and CC'd the law firm that established the trust. My hands had gone numb. So people knew. Someone knew he was planning this. The banker raised concerns. I don't know what happened after that, but the trust company was acquired by a larger bank in early 2016. Different personnel, different systems. It's possible the warnings got lost in the transition. Or ignored, or buried. I drove home in a daze, called in sick to work. Spent 3 days staring at Maria's report, reading and rereading until the words blurred together. The question I couldn't escape: did anyone else know? I started with my mother. We met for lunch at her favorite cafe, the one where she ordered the same Caesar salad every time. I waited until after she'd taken her first bite. "Mom, I need to ask you something about Uncle Mark and my college fund." Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. Something flickered across her face. "What about it?" "Did you know the fund didn't actually crash in 2008? The fork clattered onto her plate. "Sarah, did you know?" She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mark said, he told me you two had worked something out, that you'd decided community college was a better fit for your learning style, and the fund would be there for graduate school if you wanted it later. He told you I chose Riverside Community College? That I wanted to work at Target and take night classes instead of going to a real university? He showed me emails. Forged. He forged my signature 47 times, Mom. He stole $400,000 and paid for Jessica's medical school with it." My mother's face crumpled. "Oh, God! Sarah, I thought something seemed wrong. The timing felt off. But Mark was so convincing, and I wanted to believe. You wanted to believe your daughter threw away her future rather than accept that your brother stole it." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "I wanted to keep the peace," she whispered. "I didn't want to cause problems. We're family." That word, family, like it was supposed to absolve everything. I left the cafe without finishing my soup. Next, I called my Aunt Sarah, my mother's older sister. No relation to Uncle Mark except by marriage. She answered on the third ring. "Did you know?" I asked without preamble. A long pause. I suspected something wasn't right. Mark and Linda suddenly had money in 2016. New car, kitchen renovation, Jessica's apartment in Baltimore. I asked Linda about it once. She said Mark's business was doing well. His business is a mid-level insurance brokerage. It doesn't generate put your kid through Hopkins debt-free money. No, Aunt Sarah agreed quietly. It doesn't. Sarah, I'm sorry. I should have pushed harder. I should have asked you directly. But she hadn't. None of them had. My cousin Thomas, Uncle Mark's nephew from a different sibling, admitted he'd wondered why Jessica's education was fully funded while mine clearly wasn't. But didn't want to make waves. My father said he'd stayed out of it because it was my mother's family. Everyone had suspicions, questions, concerns, and everyone had chosen silence. I was alone in this, the same way I'd been alone at 18 when the fund supposedly crashed, alone at 22 graduating with debt, alone at 26 making the final loan payment while Jessica matched at Hopkins. But I wasn't helpless anymore. I hired an attorney. His name was James Park, recommended by Maria. Mid-40s, with steel gray hair, and the kind of quiet intensity that suggested he rarely lost. "This is straightforward theft," he said after reviewing Maria's report. "Embezzlement, fraud, forgery. You have a strong criminal case and an even stronger civil case. The question is, are you prepared for what happens next?" "What happens next?" "Your family will fracture. Your uncle will likely go to prison. Your cousin's medical career might be impacted if it comes out that her education was funded by stolen money. Holidays will never be the same. Some people will support you. Others will call you vindictive. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about 18-year-old me, crying on the floor of my childhood bedroom. 22-year-old me, exhausted from working full-time while finishing my degree. 26-year-old me, watching Jessica's residency celebration on Facebook while I calculated whether I could afford new tires. "Yes," I said, "I'm prepared." We scheduled a family meeting at Uncle Mark's house. I told him I wanted to discuss estate planning and family finances in light of my recent promotion. "Something official," I said. "Could everyone be there? Parents, Aunt Linda, Jessica if she was in town?" He agreed immediately. Probably thought I wanted advice on my pathetic 401k. The meeting was set for a Saturday afternoon in January. James and Maria arrived 15 minutes early and waited in their car down the street. I arrived exactly on time. Uncle Mark's house was a sprawling colonial in a nice suburb. 4 bedrooms, landscaped yard, 2-car garage. Grandmother's inheritance had helped buy it, back before I was born. Back when Uncle Mark was still honest, maybe. Everyone was already there. Uncle Mark and Aunt Linda in matching armchairs. My parents on the sofa, looking uncomfortable. Jessica perched on the ottoman, smiling at me with genuine warmth. "Sarah, I'm so glad you're getting serious about financial planning. Dad gives the best advice." I almost couldn't go through with it. Looking at Jessica's open, trusting face, she really had no idea. But I'd come too far. "Actually, I need to discuss something else first." I pulled out my phone and texted James. "Now." The doorbell rang. Uncle Mark frowned. "Are you expecting someone?" "Yes, my attorney and forensic accountant." The color drained from his face. James and Maria entered with professional courtesy, introduced themselves, and took seats. Maria set up her laptop on the coffee table. James placed a leather binder in front of Uncle Mark. "Mr. Chen," James began, his voice even and calm, "we're here to discuss the educational trust established by Eleanor Mitchell for her granddaughter, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. Specifically, we're here to discuss the systematic embezzlement of that trust over a 4-year period." "What?" Aunt Linda's voice was sharp. "This is ridiculous." "Let me show you." Maria turned her laptop around. Spreadsheet on the screen. Numbers in neat rows. The trust was established in April 2007 with 387,422 19s. By August 2016, it had grown to 412,338 67s. Then these withdrawals began. She clicked through images. Distribution forms. Transfer records. Bank statements highlighting each theft. Uncle Mark's jaw was clenched. "Sarah, if you needed money, you should have just asked." "I did ask. When I was 18. You told me the fund crashed. You showed me fabricated statements." I pulled out my phone, opened the email, and read his exact words. "The market crashed. The fund is gone. I'm so sorry. I failed you." September 14th, 2008, 3:47 p.m. I have the original email with metadata showing it was never altered. "This is a misunderstanding. You forged my signature 47 times. James opened the binder, revealing page after page of distribution forms. Every signature was traced. We've had them analyzed by a forensic document examiner. Her report is included. Page 43. Jessica stood up, her face pale. Dad, what is this? Your medical school tuition, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. All 4 years, nearly $400,000. The same amount Grandma left me for my education. No. Jessica was shaking her head. No, Dad said, you told me you saved that money. You said it came from your business. Aunt Linda exploded. How dare you come into our home and accuse Mrs. Yu as Chen? James's voice cut through her rising hysteria. Your husband transferred funds from Sarah's trust to Chen Family Holdings LLC, an entity he controls, and from there directly to Johns Hopkins and a Baltimore property management company. We have 4 years of wire transfers. The paper trail is irrefutable. He slid another document across the coffee table. This is a criminal complaint that will be filed with the district attorney's office on Monday morning. We're giving you 48 hours to respond. You can contact your attorney, obviously. My mother was crying. Quiet, shocked tears streaming down her face. Jessica sank back onto the ottoman. I didn't know. Oh my God, I didn't know. I know you didn't, I said, and I meant it. This isn't about you. Uncle Mark finally spoke. His voice was tight, defensive, ugly. You never even applied to universities. You told me you wanted to stay local, work for a while, figure things out. I have my acceptance letters, 3 state schools. I was deciding between them when you told me the money was gone. You would have wasted it. The mask was cracking now, his face twisted with something that looked like genuine belief. You were 17, directionless. Jessica had a plan. She had ambition. She would actually use the education. It wasn't your money to redistribute based on who you thought deserved it more. I'm her father. I was supposed to just watch my brilliant daughter drown in debt when there was money sitting there. My money, from my grandmother, who specified it was for me only. Aunt Linda stood up, her voice venomous. We gave her opportunities you would have wasted. You ended up at some mediocre state school anyway, working an admin job anyone could do. Jessica is saving lives. Which one of you actually made something of yourselves? The room went silent. My father, quiet, steady dad who never raised his voice, spoke for the first time. Linda, you need to leave this house right now. This is my house. Get out, my mother said, her voice raw with tears. Get out before I say something I can't take back. James stood. Mr. Chen, you'll be hearing from the district attorney's office Monday. Mrs. Mitchell, here's my contact information if you need to reach us before then. We'll see ourselves out. I followed them to the door. Behind me I could hear Jessica crying, Uncle Mark trying to justify the unjustifiable, Aunt Linda's shrill voice insisting they'd done nothing wrong. My mother caught up with me on the front walk. Sarah, baby, I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have protected you. Yeah, I said. You should have. I got in my car and drove home. That was the last time our whole family was in the same room. Uncle Mark was arrested 48 hours later. The charges were extensive: felony embezzlement, wire fraud, forgery, theft by deception, breach of fiduciary duty. The district attorney called it one of the most clear-cut cases of family financial exploitation she'd seen. His attorney tried to negotiate, offered to make full restitution if criminal charges were dropped. James refused on my behalf. Your client had years to do the right thing, James told them during a mediation session I didn't attend. He chose to commit 47 separate acts of fraud instead. The prosecutor offered Uncle Mark a plea deal: 3 years in prison, full restitution plus interest, and permanent surrender of any trustee or fiduciary positions. Total amount owed, $487,000, accounting for interest and the education I would have received but didn't. Uncle Mark refused the deal, insisted he'd done nothing wrong, said he was reallocating family resources for maximum benefit. We went to trial. It lasted 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Maria testified about the paper trail. The forensic document examiner explained the signature forgeries. I testified about the 2008 phone call, the fabricated statements, the years of believing my education dreams had died in a market crash. Jessica testified too. She sobbed on the witness stand, explaining that she'd believed her father's business success had paid for medical school. She'd written thank you cards every semester, felt grateful every day. If I had known, she said, her voice breaking, I never would have accepted a single dollar. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Uncle Mark to 5 years in prison and ordered him to pay $487,000 in restitution plus court costs. Every asset he had was subject to liens. The house, his business, retirement accounts, everything. Aunt Linda filed for divorce 6 weeks later. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. The family fractured exactly the way James had warned. My mother supported me publicly but struggled with guilt and grief over her brother's imprisonment. My father was quietly furious at Uncle Mark, at Aunt Linda, at everyone who'd stayed silent. Aunt Linda's side of the family called me vindictive, said I'd destroyed Jessica's life over ancient history, said I should have just asked for money instead of sending an old man to prison. My cousins from that side stopped speaking to me. Aunt Sarah and Uncle Peter sent a long apology letter and a check for $5,000 to help with legal costs, but our relationship never quite recovered. Too much guilt on their side, too much resentment on mine. Jessica was the surprise. 3 days after the sentencing, she showed up at my apartment. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair unwashed. She looked nothing like the polished doctor I'd seen on Facebook. I withdrew from my residency, she said. Jessica, no. I sold my condo. I have $60,000. It's yours, all of it. And I'll pay you $500 a month until the full amount is repaid. I don't care that the court doesn't require it. This is what's right. I didn't want to take it, but I did. Because she was right. It was what was right. She transferred to a different hospital in a different city. Slowly, painfully, we rebuilt something like a relationship. Text messages every few weeks, an occasional phone call. She never made excuses for our father, never asked me to forgive him. He destroyed both our lives, she said once. Yours by stealing your future. Mine by making me complicit in something I'd never have chosen. The restitution came in pieces. Liquidation of assets, garnishment of Uncle Mark's prison wages, payments from Jessica. 18 months after the sentencing, I'd received $180,000. It was enough. I enrolled at State University at 30 years old, declared a major in finance and a minor in law, sat in lecture halls surrounded by 22-year-olds and didn't care. My mother came to my first day of class, took photos of me in front of the administration building, tears streaming down her face. Your grandmother would be so proud, she whispered. I think she would have been. Not about the lawsuit or the family fracture. That would have broken her heart. But about me finally getting the education she'd wanted for me. About me refusing to be silent about injustice, even when silence would have been easier. Uncle Mark will be released in 3 years with good behavior. I don't know if I'll ever speak to him again. Some family members think I should forgive him eventually. Others think I already gave him more grace than he deserved by not pushing for the maximum sentence. I don't know what I think yet. What I do know, I'm graduating next year with honors. I'm applying to law school. I volunteer with a nonprofit that teaches financial literacy to young people, specifically about trusts and how to protect yourself from exploitation by family members. I visited Grandma's grave last month, brought a copy of my law school acceptance letter from Georgetown, and laid it on her headstone. I'm sorry it took so long, I told her. But I'm doing it. Everything you wanted for me. The fund she left wasn't just money, it was belief. Her belief that I was worth investing in, that my future mattered, that I had potential worth nurturing. Uncle Mark didn't just steal money. He stole the version of me that my grandmother saw. The one who could have been something more at 22 instead of 33. He stole years, confidence, opportunities that don't come twice. But he didn't steal everything. Jessica texted me last week. Lunch this week? My treat. Always. We're finding our way back to each other. She's not responsible for her father's choices, and I'm not responsible for the consequences of seeking justice. Some parts of the family will never heal. Aunt Linda still sends me venomous emails that go straight to spam. Certain cousins will never speak to me again. Holiday gatherings are smaller now, quieter, marked by absences that ache. But other things have gotten better. My relationship with my mother is stronger, built on honesty now instead of willful ignorance. My father and I talk every Sunday. Jessica and I are slowly reconstructing a friendship that looks nothing like our childhood closeness, but might be more authentic because of it. I got my education fund back, bit by bit, penalty by penalty. But the cost was learning which family members would watch you drown as long as the boat didn't rock. That's the lesson I didn't want to learn but needed to know. So let me ask you something. Have you ever discovered a family member stole from you? How did you handle it? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single one, and these stories matter. If this resonated with you, hit that like button. If you want more real stories about ordinary people facing extraordinary betrayals, subscribe and turn on notifications. And if someone you know needs to hear this, needs to know it's okay to seek justice even when everyone tells you to stay quiet, share this video with them. Coming up next, I've got a story about inherited debt that'll make your blood boil. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for listening to my story. Some days I'm still angry. Some days I'm grateful I learned the truth. Most days I'm just trying to become the person my grandmother believed I could be. I'll see you in the next one.